Okay, so I'm going to show you how to transfer a normal map to a low resolution version of a sculpture in ZBrush. So first of all, I'm going to import a tool that is a scan from the laser scanner that we're using in class, and remember to draw that on the canvas. I hold shift to snap it flat, and before I do anything I need to go straight to edit mode so that I can edit my object. And you can see that it's a very high resolution object. Quite zoom in there, very small triangles. So what we want to do is create a lower res version of this model that we can transfer this high resolution detail to in the form of a normal map. What's important here is this subtool. The subtool, we have all the different versions of our model. We can have them layered here. I'm going to rename this one by making sure it's selected and renaming it. I'm going to call it FUB, which I don't know why that's what I called the object, original. So I know that that's the original version of the data. Now I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to call it it took me a while to figure out how visibility works here. When you click on the one you're working on, it's always visible, and then you turn off the other one so that you can't see it. They look exactly the same, so we won't see that change yet. I'm going to call this FUB high edit. It's going to be my high resolution edit, and then I'm going to create a low resolution version as well. What we want to do here is first of all give ourselves a Dynamesh to work with. So I'm going to go Dynamesh, resolution up around there, and go create. And it doesn't look much different, but this is now going to work for our sort of sculpting that we're going to do first. So obviously you can decide what you want to sculpt. I'm going to smooth it first in some places. That's with the, by the way, Z add is adding geometry, whereas if you have RGB add, you're adding paint, which I'll do in another video. You can do both of them at the same time if you want. Oops. So I'm just going to smooth my surfaces and go bigger. So this area of the model is looking much more smoothed and shiny. And then I'm going to, with a smaller brush, say 3. Intensity 100 and draw size much smaller. I'm going to add some strange veiny type patterns, and I'm just doing this as a demonstration of how the normal map will show these details. So I do lots of whoa, crazy squiggles, and let's do some bigger ones. Well, that's probably a bit much. Some more bumpy sort of ones here, and then maybe we'll do some subtract, so to take away geometry. So let's do that over here. Let's do some carving. Alright, so we have some interesting sculpted details on our sort of Dynamesh version. Now what I want to do is go and create a duplicate of that, which will be our optimized mesh that will project this data onto. So we will duplicate that. We'll rename. We'll turn that one off. Turn this one on. We'll rename it to fub low edit. And the first thing I'm going to do with this is transform it from being the Dynamesh style geometry into a ZBrush geometry, and we'll bring that right down. We'll make that 1. And that'll take a little second. No T this time. Okay, so there's our low resolution version. We could probably even bring that a bit lower. Let's go 0.7. Alright, so there's our low res version, and you can see we lose the detail when we do that, but don't worry, we'll get it back. Oh, I guess that could even be lower again, but I'm not going to worry about it for now. I'll just push on. Alright. So now what we want to do is create a UV map for this object, otherwise we can't project the normals properly. So on our low-res fub object, I'm going to go and use our Z plugin, and hopefully I've not got any non-manifold geometry here, so we'll be able to do it. And we'll do a track and protect control painting. So we'll protect these areas. It's here, because that's where we'll see most of the detail. In fact, we'll even the seams too. That's where. Look, I've just picked this sort of abstract one. Doesn't matter too much, but I guess this is the sort of focal area of the object. We don't want any seams there. And then I'll just let it put it wherever it wants, and we will go straight away to unwrapping that. Yes, it's done it. And if you go back into the Z plugin, you can click flatten to look at the UV map. I mean, that's not great, but it'll do for this tutorial. You can put more effort into where you put your seams and everything in yours. So we've unwrapped it for UVs. Let's go back to the geometry. And what we're going to do here is create some subdivision levels on this simple geometry, so that when the normal map projects to it, we can use that. We're going to project the some of the detail from the sculpted version onto the higher subdivision levels, and then we're going to project the normal map based on those. So in here, what we want to do is divide the mesh. We want to divide it. Let's go 5 times, which is created like for each square that we had in the original layer, that is layer 1 here, we've created 5 layers of detail in each of those. And then what we're going to do now is with this other one visible, you have to have both visible, so that's one on top of the other. You use a tool here called project. You can just leave that like that and go project all. And it says projecting mesh details. So it's going to try and take the data from the top one, put it on the bottom one. Well, that's not amazing, but it is an interesting result. Obviously with your own you can spend a bit more time than I have on this one. See, the problem here is it's kind of pixelated the detail as it's tried to move the smooth, very high Dynamesh version onto the kind of more subdivided ones. Anyway, you could try and improve that by adding even more subdivision layers or something if you wanted. Alright, now so that's not a normal map, that's just geometry projected onto its highest subdivision layer. Now what we need to do is go down to the lowest subdivision layer and we go to normal map. We need to have flip G on apparently, so that some software thinks that a green color is pointing up, others think it's pointing down, so we need to flip it for Unity and go create normal map. And you'll see here my normal map has all of that high detail that's in the highest subdivision layer, and what we want to do now is clone the normal map over to here. This means clone it to the texture palette. Click on the texture palette here and go export. We'll put it on the desktop. Fablo edit normals. It's JPEG. Save that out. OK. And on our lowest subdivision layer here, we're going to export the OBJ to the desktop. OK. Now that's it. Let's go into, let's just move this out of the way. Go into Unity. It's still baking some lighting, doesn't matter. Where are these two files? We just need the OBJ and the normal map. Bring them in. Actually, let's create a new scene. Don't save. Right, new scene. Now we want to get our fub object here, which as you can see is quite low res. Let's just turn that around so you can see that. Not amazing. We need to create a material. Right click, create material. We'll call it fub. And the Fablo edit normal map goes into here. It says it's not marked as a normal map, so fix now. And then just drag that straight on. That is not around the right way. Hang on. I wonder why. Hang on. It's just wait. I think I know why. I think it might just have a different XY setting, so we might just have to flip the file. I'll just pause it and just check that. Okay, so it just needs to be flipped vertically in Photoshop, so you just let's just turn that into a layer, Control T for transform, and then flip vertical. So not a rotate but a flip. save that as JPEG and replace. Should re-import that. That's correct now. The other thing you need to do is on the import settings, this is the same as if you do it from Maya as well, is on normals. So the import settings by that is not the inspector settings on the object, but the inspector settings on the file import itself. Change the normals to calculate and then smooth them. And there you go. Now it doesn't look very good at the moment because we need to have lighting and stuff, so let's just let's create a point light over here with a bigger intensity and a bigger range. You can see how that light is affecting the object and its normals. There we go. You can also check to see that it's low res by going to wireframe or shaded wireframe. And I've got to say that's much easier than Maya. That's a much cleaner process. So I'll be using that from now on. And in the next video I'll do how to paint and do the texture for the object. Okay? Super smooth, super easy.